Hi everyone, I'm Tosca Di Matteo, founder of Tosca Coaching and Consulting, and today it's Feisty on Friday, number 15. I am going to talk to you today about leadership. There's lots of facets to leadership, of course, but today I am really fired up for a lot of different reasons. And certainly the state that the country is in is a big one. But the other reason why I'm fired up about it is because I feel like the people that have influence and are in leadership roles often don't see the power that they have and the power that they have to share with others in those roles. And oftentimes, even those who are shattering ceilings, who are breaking the mold, are often unaware that they're also repeating the detrimental behaviors that harm us in terms of our beliefs about what leadership looks like. So I'm going to get into it right now, and I'd love your thoughts on this topic. In whatever channel you feel comfortable, whether it's IG, whether it's my LinkedIn, whether it's my Facebook, I'm in all these places. Okay, anyway, so I just want to talk a little bit about what leadership is to me. You might be on board, you might not. But to me, leadership is speaking truth to power. And certainly with the DNC, you saw that. You saw that there was not a holding back on speaking truth to power and what's been really going on here. And this is the kind of behavior that I feel we need to see more and more in corporate, of course, in government, everywhere. We need to be speaking truth to power, and I think that's the movement that we're in. And I just want to reiterate that this is what I think is going to help us to actually change the game, because we're not going to be able to change the game if we are not talking about the stuff that we need to. If we can't call out when wrongs are done, how could we see the change that we need? So this takes bravery, it takes courage, and we need people to step up right now and to see that now is the time to be brave and courageous in order to see the changes that we need in our culture, in our work cultures, in our homes, everywhere. Because there's a lot of stuff that's not working right now. Let's just be honest. Leadership is admitting to mistakes. Hey, Shayna, I'm just talking about leadership right now. Leadership is admitting mistakes. It's speaking truth to power. It's sharing power with others. And I think that Lizzo is a great example of that. If you don't know about Lizzo, check her out. You may not like her music. It doesn't matter. When she is on stage, when she has the mic, she shares her power with others. She makes you feel like you are with her, not below her, not under her. Leadership is not abusing your power. Leadership is respect, and being aware of your influence. Like, this is so huge. Like, who you influence in places of leadership is not just the person that you're talking to. It's all the people that they talk to. It's all the people within earshot. It's all the people observing your behaviors that you don't even know about. And so it's so important when we think about the actions that we take. Think about them being amplified. As a leader, are you proud of those actions? Because if you're not, I'm going to need you to reassess what you're doing. Leadership is remaining open. It's not believing that you have all the answers. But when you really feel like you have something, yeah, fight for it. Yeah, take a stand. That's fine. But also have your ears open. Always. And leadership is about calling out the power in other people. Again, because of your influence. Where can you call out the power? for others, to help them raise up, to help them rise to the occasion, to help them speak their piece and their mind. Leadership is about being direct and being honest. And it's also about focusing on people's strengths and not their weaknesses. In the past few days, right, with the DNC, of course, jobs was a huge conversation, and it certainly was a big topic, I think, for Joe Biden, because he saw what it meant when his dad lost his job and how hard that was and how much his identity was wrapped up in that. And you know me, I talk a lot about the whole job situation, everything from, everything about career stuff. And when you are in leadership positions, you have a responsibility to those who have dedicated their time to talk to you. And that brings me to ghosting, because if you want to even consider yourself a leader, I need you to look at if you are ghosting people, if your organization is ghosting people. Because if you aren't doing it yourself, but you know that's what your organization is doing, they're taking the coward's way out, I'm going to need you to address that. Because if you are ghosting people, then I am not willing to call you a leader in any way, shape, or form. Ghosting is this, this cultural phenomenon, this easy way out that organizations and individuals are taking, not just on the job front, but on the relationship front, because we all know finding a job is very similar to finding a relationship. And ghosting happens in all of those places, and it's disgusting. Like, where did we decide that this was an okay way to be? That ignoring, that dismissing, that blatantly not responding was okay. It's not okay. Let's just call a spade a spade. So if you are a leader within your organization, and let me tell you, if you want to be a leader, you are, period. It doesn't matter what your title is. And that's the other thing I want to talk about leadership. That everyone up and down organizations, everyone within the family structure, anyone, any age can be a leader. I don't care. Look at the boy who talked about his, young man, he was 13, young adult, who talked about his stuttering challenges and how Joe helped him out. That is being a leader. To be that vulnerable, to say, like, I'm working through this, and here's this role model that helped me through this. That is being a leader. So, what we tell ourselves about our roles and who we are, and, they can be damaging to ourselves, and we can be denying the power that we do have by not saying, hey, I am a leader. If I choose that is what I am in whatever situation I am in. If I'm an at-home mom, I can still be a leader. So we need to really reorient ourselves around leadership and question these old archaic definitions of it. So that brings me kind of to awareness, right? And we've talked a little bit about awareness, about, are you perpetuating the same harmful messages that you've been receiving your whole life, even as a leader, even as somebody who maybe have broken through some things? Are you showing people to look this way? Are you telling people to push through the pain versus slow down? Are you perpetuating these same harmful messages that we've been hearing for decades? Are you setting boundaries? Are you being the role model? Are you showing people things can be done a different way? Because let me tell you, we are in the moment where we have to recognize things have to be done a different way. And I get fired up about this. Let me tell you why. Because I see women, let's just in particular, they get into these influential roles and they use their stage and their platform to perpetuate the same messages that bring us down. I was in an event, and the leader of that event had at least 100 women in the virtual room. And in that space, she talked about her Botox appointment. Like, you're going to have that many people in a room and you're going to choose to talk about that? It's not a judgment of like, do Botox, don't do Botox. But I'm talking about you are a leader and you are in a room with women who probably feel a certain way about their appearance, who probably have limiting beliefs about what's possible for them, who probably have some ageism concerns, and you're going to sit there and use the space and the time to talk about your Botox appointment. Like, I'm not okay with that. Which kind of brings me to like realness. Look, and this term realness comes from the LGBTQ community. And I'm using it in this moment as a way to say, like, as a leader, bring the realness. It's okay to show up and not have makeup on if, like, you didn't have time for that. That's real. That's okay. Realness is, I got a bathing suit on under this because I'm going to the beach after my Feisty on Friday. Nothing wrong with that. In fact, I encourage you to do whatever it is that makes you happy and be real about it. You don't got to lie about it, because that's what's going on in the world right now. We're just like lying to ourselves about what makes us happy, about what we're doing, about the struggle, and that's not leadership to me. And I think that we're in this moment of time where really showing leadership in a new way, really changing the game of leadership, requires us to maybe make some sacrifices. As if it were the 1960s, where real sacrifices were made for progress. Because the way I see it is, if we keep allowing these toxic behaviors to continue and continue and continue without being checked, without being questioned, without being willing to walk away from those situations, then the same behaviors will continue. And it makes me think about people who, are making the decision to leave toxic workplaces because they know that it's not sustainable. And we need more people to set their boundaries and say no. We really do. Because until organizations get the message that this is not okay, that they're going to lose their top talent because these behaviors are not acceptable, like, until we do that, we risk continuing in the same old way that we have been going. So let me just pause for a second on this idea of leadership. Like, how do you lead in your life, in your spheres of influence? How do you define leadership for yourself? I'm not saying I have it right. This is my perspective. But part of it, I think, is we have to be cognizant, we have to be aware, we have to be intentional about how we want to lead and what we want leadership to look like and who we will support. And that brings me to something else, which is that nobody's perfect, right? And let me tell you what can happen, what I've seen happen in the world when people do stand up to lead. There's a whole lot of judgment, right? There's a whole lot of judgment because the person isn't leading in the exact way we want them to lead. And then we start to tear them down. So maybe that's going on with some of the candidates that are showing up right now for our country. Maybe that's going on with the leaders in your organization. And I think especially for the women, we're especially harsh on the women, and we want them to just do everything the exact way that we would do if we were in that position. And that is so detrimental, because the reality is that they are being courageous. They are doing the work of standing up and being visible and vulnerable. They are hopefully speaking their truth, the truth as they know it to be in that moment, because they are where they are. So we have to also be really careful with how we're judging others who are doing that work. And it doesn't mean that we have to be silent. We can certainly speak up and say, hey, I'm wondering why you're doing it this way. And that's part of leadership, is being willing to have those bold and courageous conversations with people. The hard conversations. Like if you're really, really struggling with it, then share it with that person. But I think that if we if we start to nitpick and judge every single thing that leaders are doing who are legitimately trying to do the right thing, um, we're really missing an opportunity to be a support for the change that they are trying to rally around. They may not be doing the change exactly the way that you want or that you would, but they're trying, And I think that's the important thing here. When I think about all the initiatives going around for equality and equity and all of that, and I look at different ways that's being approached by different entities, there are certainly entities that I look at and say, oh man, I wouldn't do it that way. Or, ooh, I don't really agree with your choice on that. But I still support that they're working on it, that they're doing the very best they can. I may not choose to invest in those organizations that I don't think are doing it the way that is aligned with my values, but it doesn't mean that I disparage them. I may call out and say, hey, I'm not sure that this is really, a way that is the best for all, but if that's what you feel, do you. But my point being that it's easy to tear other people down. It is easy to go right to judgment. And I just am saying in this Feisty on Friday that we have to be really careful, because progress is progress. And no one has the one right way or the one right answer. But if we're all marching with good intention, then, we're going to get there. We're going to get there. And there's more than one way to skin a cat, So yeah, I think that we just have to do an inventory. We have to do an inventory of ourselves, and realize that what we do has ripple effects. When I talk about realness, that's one of the reasons why I do this format that I do, because I don't have a script. I'm just kind of speaking from my heart and mind space, and I'm just sharing what feels real for me in the moment. And this is scary, and some things might not come out right, but I do it because I want people to see also the realness of the issue and the conversation, and not the, super staged and super scripted way of talking about it, because it's harder to do it live. It's harder to articulate without a whole, drawn out thought process that, I spend hours on. And I want to do that. I want to bring like real thoughts to real people and start the conversation that way. So that's my choice of showing leadership in this way. not only for others, but also for myself to know, hey, I can do it this way and I can make mistakes and that's okay. Because I see a lot of stuff out there that's super polished, that's super, marketed. And and I want there to be a balance of the realness and the sharp articulation, because we can't always plan to say the perfect thing. And I think that what people do is they hold back. They hold back because they don't know exactly how to say what they want to say. And in that leadership moment, the moment has passed. And sometimes it is in the heat of the moments that we have to just say it, to say what's on our mind. Um, because that's the moment to do it. Because there's plenty of times where we're not going to go back. We're not going to go back to that conversation. Um, and we've lost the opportunity. So, when we think about leadership and we think about um, the ultimate leadership, right? The ultimate leadership right now in this country, I think, has had the responsibility to save lives. That's like the extreme, right? We think of that as like that is like the ultimate like leadership responsibility. And if I take that into organizations and businesses and leadership there's also responsibility of life. And the difference is it doesn't look like, a hospital bed with a ventilator. What it looks like is mental health. What it looks like is avoiding trauma. What it looks like is not creating traumatic experiences for people in the workplace environment. That is a huge responsibility. But we don't talk about that. We don't talk about that as a leadership responsibility. We don't talk about that for our CEOs and our boards and the whole C-suite to say, are your people in good hands? Are your leaders mindful of the mental damage that they have the possibility of instilling in their employees? Because let me tell you, bullying and ghosting and manipulation and gaslighting, all of these things are toxic and create unhealthy people, unhealthy relationships, and they can don't be mistaken, they can get to the point of depression and even suicidal thoughts. So I really think we have to take leadership way more seriously across the board. And it's not just, is it somebody's life? Is it somebody's mental health? Are we creating traumatic experiences? Because that definition, look it up. Trauma is not just you got hit by a car, and it's not just you were physically abused or assaulted. It is way more than that. It is emotional trauma. It is mental. It is so broad. It's even in experiencing surgeries. Non-life-threatening, optional surgeries create trauma in the body. But we don't necessarily think about it that way because we chose that, right? So I know I went in a few different directions on this leadership conversation. It clearly has a lot of tentacles. And, I think the big point here is we have to take responsibility. We have to take responsibility for what we're doing and saying, because it's impacting more people than we could ever imagine. And we also have to call truth to power. We also have to call people out on behaviors that have long been um, accepted and now need to be questioned. So do an inventory for yourself. How do you see leadership? Um, how do you want to lead? What behaviors do you want to stop, start, or continue doing as it relates to your own leadership? And shifting in this regard often requires other people. Because if you know, for example, that maybe you've had some bullying tendencies as your leadership style, and you want to change that, and you want to change as a result also the perception that you have that is out there of you because you've been doing harmful behaviors for a long time, you also have to elicit support and awareness with the people that you work with in order for them to see and support you in that change. Because people bring the past with them always, and it is hard for them uh, to recognize, see, acknowledge, and accept that there is change. This is why people are so happy, right, to have fresh starts, because they know how hard it is to change perceptions based on actually changing behaviors. I'm not talking about just changing perceptions. I'm talking about first changing the behavior and helping others to see that you have changed. That's why I think it can be so hard to stay where you are when you know that you've done some things that have rubbed people the wrong way, because it's hard to then change in front of their eyes. But that's part of what needs to be done is be truthful and honest and let people know, hey, I'm realizing I've made some mistakes. I've realized that I've done things in not the best way, and I'm committed to making that change. And would you be open to seeing this change? Would you be open to accepting that I'm making changes? And then you're kind of actively participating with them. You're actively having that conversation, and they can be aware too, and maybe they can even be an ally and a support, and maybe they can even call you out on your shit when you need, when you're reverting to your old behaviors. So yeah, that is my Feisty on Friday. I'm a coach and a consultant. I do career coaching, and I also do marketing consulting and organizational culture change consulting, because my mission is to detoxify workplace environments by helping people and organizations discover or rediscover the heart of who they are so they can live from that place going forward. I hope you have a great Friday and a great summer weekend, and I'll be back with you here next week. Take care, everyone.